Is tomato a fruit or a vegetable? But don't think that this is an ordinary question. This is what we call it as a multinational question. Now, why multinational question? Countries across the globe have debated over this one. You don't believe it? Now, do you know that in 1893, the US Supreme Court was faced with this particular question, whether tomato is a fruit or a vegetable? Now, how did they decide? What did they decide? But before we get into what the Supreme Court said on whether tomato is a fruit or a vegetable, let us just quickly understand and learn what exactly are the origins of tomato. But tomato did not originate in India. You and I might have been using tomato, eating tomato for years together, but tomato did not originate in India. Where did they originate? It originated in Latin America, the present day South America. South Americans started using tomato good 2500 years back, approximately around 500 BC in present day Mexico. They started using tomato for that long, since that long. And how did tomato move from Latin America to India? It didn't happen directly, it happened through Europe. Now how did tomato reach Europe? Now remember, almost in 1500, 1400, in that time period, lots and lots of these European countries were conquering the world over. Among one such conquest of the Spanish was Latin America. So when Spaniards went conquering Latin America as part of their expansion model, they stumbled upon tomato also. And through Spaniards, the tomato started moving from Latin America to Europe. The Spaniards took tomato from Latin America to Europe around 16th and 17th century. Now don't assume that tomato became immediately popular in Europe. It did not. In fact, it was the other way around. The entire Europeans are scared of tomato. You know why? Tomato was even called as poison apple. Now, what is this whole poison apple funda here? People believed that eating tomato will kill them. And in fact, there are lots and lots of recorded cases where people were found dead after consuming tomato. No, when was tomato poison? In reality, tomato was not the poison, but instead what had happened was tomatoes were stored in lead vessels and containers. And please note, tomatoes were all acidic content. No? The entire content of tomato is entirely high in acidity. And when that acidic content started mixing with lead, it contributes to some poisonous content, and you end up eating the poisonous content to get sick and die. Now, tomatoes were not poisonous, mixing them with lead was poisonous. So, good 200 odd years, Europeans were scared of tomato. Then when did tomato actually start gaining traction? Your favorite pizza, you guys order it all along, right? Whenever you want to celebrate, you end up ordering a pizza. Take the Swiggy, place an order. Pizza saved tomato. In 1880, when Italians discovered or found or invented pizza as a food item, tomato started gaining traction. In a way, tomato should be thankful to pizza to save it. Why? Without pizza, people would not have taken to tomato at all. Now, from Europe, tomato traveled all the way to India, not through Spaniards, but through Portuguese. You all should be knowing that Portuguese, as part of their inquest, had also come down to Goa. Through Portuguese, the tomato traveled to India. This is the broad history of how tomato came to India. Let us go back to understand how the US Supreme Court ruled in this particular case. Further, we have to understand why that case came up in the first place. Why did even someone ask this question whether tomato is a fruit or a vegetable? Like all these kind of interesting cases, taxation was the basis. Let us now try to understand why this case came up before the US Supreme Court. Now at that point of time, the United States government imposed taxes on vegetables but not on fruits. And now, people had this confusion as to whether tomato is a fruit or a vegetable. Now, what exactly were the arguments placed before the US Supreme Court based on which they rendered the final decision? There were two sets of arguments. One was culinary, another was scientific. What exactly was the culinary discussion or culinary basis? Culinarily, fruits are something that are eaten as a dessert post your meals, which are sweet in nature. And vegetables are part of the main course, relatively bland. Unless and until you add something to that, they are generally not eatable. Think of the salad that you had the last time here, entirely made of vegetable. Did you have it after your meals or before your meals or during meals? Before meals. When did you have your dessert, fruit salad? You typically have it only after your meals. Remember, fruits by very nature, culinarily, were always used only as a dessert, whereas vegetables were forming part of the main course. And therefore, culinarily, tomato was treated as a vegetable primarily because tomato was never used as a dessert item, only in the main cooking. Now, this was culinary argument. We also look at the scientific argument. Botanically, the difference between fruit and a vegetable is based on primarily whether or not that item contains seed inside. Think of tomato, you see so many small seeds inside. The last time you had a piece of watermelon, you saw all those black items, all those seeds. Mango, no summer, no mangoes, no summer without mangoes. Think of mango, lot of us enjoy eating that mango to the last drop till your seed. You think of any fruit, you'll always find seeds inside. Now, tomato had seeds and therefore botanically, tomato should be classified as what? A fruit. Now comes the issue. Now what should the decision be based on? Is it a fruit or a vegetable? The United States Supreme Court eventually concluded that we are imposing taxes on a product based on how people perceive and see that product, and that is only based on the culinary understanding. What exactly is the final conclusion, sir? Should I treat tomato as a fruit or a vegetable? The US Supreme Court finally concluded that tomato is a vegetable. The next time you have a tomato soup or a tomato salad, you ask yourself, or rather ask a friend a question, whether tomato is a fruit or a vegetable. Thank you.